Hello hogs. Today's challenge run will be beating Elden Ring with 0 weapon upgrades. There isn't much else to the rules than that. We will not be upgrading a single weapon. We can use any weapon that we have the stats for, but we cannot upgrade. We can upgrade our flasks and stuff like that, but when it comes to strictly weapons, it's going to be +0. Start off by grabbing a couple early graces and then trying to pet this horse. The more I pet the horse, the angrier the horse gets. I don't really understand this game. This game kind of sucks. Since the horse didn't like it, I try it with the soldier, and apparently I used a little too much force. Then I find this lady just sitting at this light source, and she kind of looks a little familiar. She promises me a horse that I can pet that won't die, so that's kind of nice. And this guy's horse just runs away from me. What is going on in this game? I find this weird pot with arms, so I go to shake his hands. And I feel a little bad, so I bought a couple pots from this store to keep a companion on my travels. I end up in this weird church where there's no people, also no walls. I'm getting really skeptical about this game. I find a hobo stash. It has an axe inside it. I also find this fort where my character mysteriously explodes when I enter inside it. You guys aren't selling me on this game. The lady never told me my horse could fly, so that's pretty cool. A +1 for this game. Then I find this land that mysteriously looks like a colonoscopy, and it's back to -1. I find a nice man who gives me his hat and a pathway up this ladder. And then I see a lion down there. He's kind of looking hungry, so I give him some food. Inside the fort, I find a nice little chest and a friend to give me a high five. Back to colonoscopy land where something is just screaming at me, so I go inside this castle. Then I find a giant rat and a part of some dude's body. I stumble upon this lady that looks like 2 ladies in a trench coat, and she wants me to find something for her. I find it and shake this man's hand for his service. He said I grabbed his hand too hard, so he decides to fist me. Yeah, this game sucks. Anyway, I find this beetle rolling some poop, and he's got a treat inside. Yummy. I find a very angry dragon, and I steal his key. I go back to the 2 ladies in the trench coat and give her her necklace. I take my trusty horse through a swamp and go through a teleporter, which brings me to another teleporter. I find another abandoned church and a guy selling a bow. I find the Great Lift of Dickus and I ride it to the top. I find 2 more horse guys, but I'm not going to pet them. Then, oh boy, my lucky day, another horse guy. This time, I think I'm going to pet this horse. But I'm going to make sure he's in a safe location before we even attempt to pet him. I want to make sure that this one is in a very comfortable spot, that nothing will go wrong when I finally go to pet this horse. We're going to get him nice and stable, get him some food, just so, you know, nothing bad happens this time. We want to make sure his temper is not extreme. And well, what do you know? This horse gets very mad at me. And he jumps off the cliff. It's like nothing in this world wants to interact with me. I'm not even sure why. What is going on? I find this guy just clanging and banging. I give him a weapon and he makes it shiny. I spin a roulette wheel and put some stats in some spots. Who cares? I go shopping for some more pots and something to light it with. I think that's what you do in this game. And then I accidentally fall off this cliff. And what do you know? I find a chicken's foot. Hell yeah. I give this guy a high five and rummage through his chest. Looks like we get a little ball on a chain. And it's a great thing I found it, because this dragon asked me for a massage for money, but only if I have a ball on a chain. And who am I to turn down free money? I somehow end up in front of a giant castle, and then a hobo with a giant stick appears out of nowhere. I have a feeling this hobo It's the one that's been leaving these chests all around the world. Maybe he's mad at me that I've been going through all of his loot. Maybe he's got air tags on all of these items and then he found out I was the one taking them all. Well, maybe you should move your items into a secure location, not around the world, but maybe inside your big castle. Anyways, this guy's an asshole, and he deserves all the theft that I've been doing to him. I use my flaming hot poker, and I just poke him to death. Seems pretty effective at this level so far. With the angry hobo with the stick down. He gives me his pouch, but has nothing inside. I don't know why they gave me this item. Everything in this game is so useless. Anyway, I get inside the castle, and they seem to want to play dodgeball with me. Luckily, I'm pretty good at dodging. They get so desperate, they keep following me up these stairs. But again, I just keep dodging. This castle seems to be leaving knives everywhere. What if the birds in the castle started picking up the knives? So I try to clean them up as best as I can. Eventually I run into a second hobo of the castle. I don't know how many hobos got into this castle and started running things. This must be the opposite lands. Where nothing makes sense, there are no kingly figures in this castle, it's just a bunch of hobos. This hobo, for some reason, is just giving me a little trouble today. It must be his 20 arms, or I don't know, just the way he's angry at me from stealing all the items from his brother or his friend. I don't know who their relationship is or who's connected, but somebody's not happy with me. I use my trusty flaming poker and do the best I could. And for some reason, he just starts screaming at me. And then next thing you know, he has a dragon arm. I don't know if he grew it or, you know, it was always there. Maybe I just couldn't see it before, but man, he's got a dragon arm now. Great. I feel a little bad for him at this point, so I let him get a couple shots in to make him feel good about himself. And then I give a couple on the way down. And eventually I run into the two ladies in the trench coat again, and they bring me to another castle. This weird lady thinks I'm an artist and gives me a key for a drawing room. I'm not sure why she gave this to me. I have no drawing skills at all. I accidentally bump into a wall and it disappears, and then I find an emotional support snail, so I pet him. I find some more weird light on the ground, so I touch it and then I go through the door. I get outside and see a really long snake. Cool. Then I fall off the roofs and I end up purifying myself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. Refreshing. After my nice long bath, I decide to go up the stairs and see another snake friend. I decide not to pet this snake. He does not look very friendly. And then I somehow stumble into a snake church. This time, there is a person inside. But for some damn reason, he just keeps falling asleep. And every time I try to wake him up, he gets up for a few seconds, but then falls asleep again. What is going on in this game? There's something not right here. I'm gonna investigate further. Eventually he stops falling asleep, but instead his body turns into a million fireflies. For some reason I just can't make any friends in this game. What a shame. Anyways, I go at the back of the church and I take another bath, but for some reason the bath is uphill, which is okay. I need to go up the hill anyway, so we get a nice little bath. And then mysteriously, there's a teleporter here, which brings me to a giant snake. Now, for some reason, I think either the two ladies in the trench coat or the lady that wanted me to draw pictures of her sent me to go find this snake to either A, draw or B, be friends with. Unfortunately, the snake does not seem very happy to see me. And unfortunately for the snake, I don't really like snakes so much. So, I'm gonna slap his dick right off his body. Do snakes have dicks? How do snakes reproduce? What's going on with snakes, man? I'm gonna have to look this up after this video. Now I got too many questions that probably shouldn't be answered, and I am grown up. This is not good. And now for some reason, the snake is also a man. He is half man, half snake. How does this happen? Who's reproducing with the snakes? There's too many questions in this damn video game, man. Nothing in this world makes sense, and I'm starting to hate it here. Whoever told me to play this game, you need to apologize to me right now. I don't know why we're here, why we're doing this. Why am I in a volcano? Why is there a half snake, half man? Why did the lady, or ladies, the triple ladies, send me on this quest? For some reason, I'm starting to think nobody wanted me to come out of this alive. They just all hate me as soon as I stepped into these lands. Somebody's had a vendetta against me. Nobody has given me a proper high five or let me pet an animal. And honestly, I'm getting kind of pissed off. Hey, I slapped the dick right off this snake man thing. And then I find a weird, creepy old lady that gives me her pocket. What's with this game and giving me pockets? What is going on, man? Anyway, I'm feeling like Jason Statham and Crank, and I gotta get my adrenaline up, so I'm jumping rooftop to rooftop, trying to get absolutely insane. On my journey in this new land, I find a giant tree. Some dragon bones. A bunch of tree men. Anyways, I'm not trying to mess with them, I am just running away. Eventually, I run into a golden ghost. He seems pretty durable and takes a beating. Probably shouldn't have fought a ghost with a sword, but hey, this is all I got in my pocket right now. Clearly the hobo or the weird looking ladies never put anything in their pockets for me to have, so this is what I got right now. And since this ghost seems to be immune from the superpowers I got from the beetle with the poop, this fight's gonna be a long one, boys. We're doing about 105 damage a hit. This boy's got about 7,000 health. You do the math. Yeah, it's gonna be a long one. Maybe I'll do the math for you. This is a long fight and I got some time. Also, I gotta mention my buffs do run out from the flask, so eventually I'm not doing 105 damage anymore. I'm doing about 90, but we do have the staggers to kind of balance out the damage. Either way, this is a super long fight, and this is kind of a preview what happens late game. And eventually I'm gonna have to change my style of approach because the broadsword is only gonna take me so far in this challenge. This is a maddening run. Absolutely maddening run. This is, I think, the very first challenge run I've done that's low damage. So this one was definitely a wake-up call for me. I'm used to doing, you know, super high-powered runs and having an easier time than what I've had in this run, but I won't spoil anything for you just yet. But you can see from the damage I'm doing on this big old golden boy that what we're doing is just not enough. Using square off is great, and it is good for a lot of enemies. It's just once you get past mid-game, it starts to become a little more ineffective in its use. So eventually we're gonna start looking for other options. Ah, my friend, the hobo with the stick, is back. This time he's a little more angry. I haven't even been in any other chests since we last left him. I'm not sure if his ego was hurt or he just wants some revenge on me for beating up his brother or friend. Again, I don't know. Who knows the lore in this game, man? They're all the same family to me. They're all against me. It's me versus them. Anyway, he beats the shit out of me and I quit out. I gotta restart this one. Round 1, I just felt I got so unlucky. Every square off I launched at him, he just cartwheeled out of the way. He was a menace, man. I was like, alright, you know what? Fair enough. You won this round, buddy. So, I just stick to the plan and square off. So any chance I get, I try to look for a square off. And I look for very specific attacks. The javelin throw, if I can speak. The javelin throw into the giant jump is probably one of the best attacks to punish for Morgott. If you are doing this playthrough casually and you're having a hard time fighting him, just look for the javelin throw, keep some medium distance and look for that throw. Sometimes he can troll you for a bit doing it, but eventually he will throw it and then jump at you if you're at the right distance. And then you get a free punish. It's very nice. Unfortunately, my repost does not happen, and I just get a R1. No big deal. Transitions them into phase 2, and a little trick you can do is throw a couple sleep pots to start phase 2, and you get a couple free hits on him. He does have a long startup after the sleep as well, so you can kind of tee off on him. This works really good for high damage builds. You can basically not have to deal with phase 2.
Shall not be forgiven.
And just like that, guy with a stick part 2 is eating dirt. Good riddance. R.I.P. you piece of crap.
You would follow.
So in every run I go into, I always realize that after Morgott, my damage is absolute doo-doo. So I go into some random cave and go exploring. I take a bath in the bath water, just to purify myself a bit and get ready for this next boss fight. Now this boss fight, spoiler alert, is the hardest boss fight in the entire run. I don't know how I'm going to get this one done, or how long this one is going to take, but man am I scared of this fight. Nah, I'm just kidding. This guy's free. Get the hell out of here. And after that, I take my horsey to the Snowtop Mountains. Whatever this place is called, the Snowland. Unfortunately, I didn't get to buy my horse a coat. I don't know if anybody sells a horse coat, but shame on all these vendors for not supplying horse coats. I bet my horse is so mad, dude. And it's finally time for top 3 worst fights in this game. It's hard to say. That's not counting any DLC bosses or any of the dungeon bosses like Gary. Fuck you, Gary. But yeah, this fight is a slog. Fire Giant is such a ridiculous boss. He has so much HP, and very quickly I realized the tool I brought for this job, much like bringing the knife to a ghost fight, bringing this knife to this giant fight was probably not my best choice. But with like a lot of these fights, I do just use the broadsword just to get a baseline for what I can adjust and how much damage I'm doing. And if it is doable with the broadsword, spoiler alert, none of the rest of the bosses are doable with this pitiful weapon. We have to find some creative solutions around our way to do some extra damage, because I am not sitting here for 30 minutes hitting Fire Giant with this thing. Yeah, a lot of the fights later on are, 9 or 10 minutes long. They're just like grueling battle of attrition and will and stubbornness and failure after failure, fearing failure, and wanting to quit this run. And of course, every death you suffer in a low damage run is just so demoralizing. You've just spent 10, 15 minutes slogging away at the boss for it to just one-shot you. I mean, it's partially my fault. I'm not running a lot of HP. I'm not wearing any armor, and I'm trying to get, 10 or 20 extra damage on my hits by using certain talismans and stuff like that. And you might not think an extra 20 or 30 damage is a lot, but when you're doing 100 damage and you add 30 damage to your 100 damage, that's 30% extra damage. That's 30% less time you're spending fighting the boss. I don't know if the math is mathing on that one. It's something like that. Who knows? Math, man. If you know math, you know what? Good for you. Good for you. Rub it in my face, why don't you? I don't know anything. So when I realized the broadsword wasn't cutting it, I realized something. I pet the dragon earlier with the mace. Fire Giant is also a pretty big target. So, potentially, I could use the Ash of War spitting chain with this mace on Fire Giant, since his legs do stay stationary a lot of the time. There's a cool trick with this flail too, where if you don't have enough FP for the Ash of War, it'll still work. You're just not doing full weapon damage, but as long as you have stamina, you can keep spinning the chain. And all we're looking for, since it's low damage, is the bleed proc. So you'll see me a lot of time just spinning the chain without any FP, and you're like, Cow, what the hell are you doing, man? You're so bad at this game. I can't believe you're doing a challenge run in Elden Ring. You should go back to baby school and play baby games for babies, you absolute moron. But joke's on you. You can keep spinning as long as you have green. And that's a motto I live by in real life. I say it all the time. I tell everybody around me, this is how it is. Man, this boss fight's driving me crazy. When I first had the idea for this challenge run, I kind of wanted to avoid bigger weapons and bleed weapons and, poison effects and stuff like that. But I quickly realized how hard this challenge is, man. This is probably the hardest one I've done in my short challenge run Elden Ring career. And just playing Dark Souls and FromSoft games in general, this one has been, an eye-opener for sure. It's been a lot of fun. but also it's helped me learn bosses a lot better too. Minus the fire giant fight, I don't think nobody needs to learn how to fight this guy. Just go under his legs and, you know, rinse, repeat. There's not much to this boss, to be honest. It's just a long fight. But a lot of even the golden ghosts got to learn that fight a little better too, since I'm not doing a lot of damage. Morgott fight, I already know kind of an exploit for it, so we kind of just abused that. But a lot of the later fights, you literally just have to get good. The only thing you can do in this run is getting good. Even if you're using bleed and poison, the bosses just have so much HP that you still have to survive for like 10 minutes. So in order to beat this challenge, you just have to get good. That's it. That's the trick. You're seeing me throw a lot of kukris around. It's to exploit sound, so the enemies will just look the other way. A lot of these enemies will just like one-tap me, so I don't want to get hit by anything while I'm walking by, and I don't have Assassin's Gambit to sneak around. So that's what you're seeing me do, exploiting sound. Pretty cool trick. And now is the boss that made me want to quit this run. This thing was such a nightmare, man. I spent over 10 hours fighting this boss alone. I went through every strategy, every weapon I thought that could be good. Sleeping them and trying to bleed them and whatever I could think of that would work well. It just didn't. There's nothing you could do about this fight at low damage. There's, like I said earlier, there's only one thing you can do, and it's get good. I originally tried with the broadsword and do the original strat like I did in Godskin Noble, where you sleep them and you stun them and you sleep them and you stun them. But I don't have the resources to do this with the amount of HP that this boss has. This boss has a combined HP value of 26,350 HP. That is an astronomical amount of health when you're doing 100 damage a swing. So, the real only solution on this one, unless you want to spend 30 minutes just fighting this boss, which, by the way, they one or two shot you. Well, basically, two shot me at this HP level. So, I had to go to the drawing board. I get the hell out of there and go grab the Reduvia. And with the Reduvia, I do need a little more arcane, so I go and kill, or he does it for me. We go after the Knights Cavalry and Caelid to get some extra runes so we can get a couple more points for arcane to use the Reduvia. My initial thought process was I can get mid-range and just start spamming the Ash of War for these guys and do some damage that way, but the resources I have are just not enough to pump out that much damage. And then the second problem is the Godskin Apostle can just dodge everything you throw at him, so this isn't going to work too well. One positive that came out of it was Godskin Noble's second phase where he gets stuck on the pillar. We could just spam the Ash of War on this one, so that one is absolutely perfect. So this Reduvia will stay in my arsenal. Another big problem with this fight, and kind of a waste of time, is when they just start chucking fireballs at you. So I thought, hey, why not get carry in retaliation and parry all the fireballs? So combined with the Reduvia, this is the main strategy we're going to use going forward. It's the most possible way we can get the most amount of opportunities for damage in. The Ash of War on the carrying retaliation does around 400 damage, and I eventually get the Magic Cracked Tear and the Magic Scorpion Charm as well. Unfortunately, did not show me collecting those as I was not recording at the time, and I was very upset. Well, trying to figure out this boss fight, it was so bad. I was so determined to just get something down and to get a proper strategy down for this fight. And then eventually it led me into having to learn the fight. Basically just to sleep the Apostle and man fight the Noble. Learn his attacks, dodge in and out, try to get some bleed procs. and just really learn the fight. And honestly, I know the Noble fight so well now. The only problem Noble really has is when he transitions to phase 2 and after he's done rolling. If you do fight him up close, he can do Noble Presence, which is his big belly explosion attack, and it almost one-shots me. So I gotta be really careful of that one and try to keep distance. And that's where the Carrion Retaliation really comes in handy. So I can kind of keep distance and have the Apostle and the Noble throw fireballs at me and just try to make sure they're not throwing fireballs at the exact same time, or you can't parry both. So one of those fireballs will get parried, the other one will hit you, and you will just die. So probably one of the biggest challenges we have there. And another big thing, once I started learning the fight and how to dodge him and get in and out, I decided to get the Venomous Fang fist weapon, which allows us to poison Noble. Part 1, we get them poisoned just because they like to walk around a lot. I'm just trying to amplify the amount of damage I'm doing over time so I'm not stuck doing this fight for 20 minutes. Once you're in the fight for so long, you kind of get fatigued and like you kind of lose focus after a while. So trying to keep the fight as short as possible is highly recommended when doing this stuff. So yeah, that's now the strat. Phase 1, poison, parry fireballs when he does throw them, and then try to bleed damage as much as possible to get the HP down, and just only fight the Noble. If we can have resources to sleep the Apostle whenever we can, that's... You do have to leave and grab some more resources for sleep pots, but it's not a big deal. We're not going through that many because these fights are just so long. Like, we just spend, you know, 15 minutes fighting this thing, and I don't have a lot of attempts in me in a day. You know, I have a job and a family and all that kind of stuff, so this fight ends up taking me around 3 or 4 days to actually complete. But in game time, it's like 11 or 12 hours. I can't even remember how much it was. It was a ridiculous amount of time. I know even for some challenge runs that doesn't seem like a lot of time, but for me this was a big change. I'm not used to fighting a boss for that long. I think the longest boss I've ever fought in a Souls game was Sword Saint Ishin on my first Sekiro run, so yeah, having to fight a boss for, you know, 10 to 12 hours is ridiculous for me. I almost quit this run every single night where I stopped doing this fight, and then I don't know what happened. I just had some sense of inspiration inside my soul, and I'm like, I gotta finish this run at all costs. This run has to be finished. I will not back down. I will not surrender. I will fuck this boss. And that's what I did. After this fight, you see my character just stop moving. I was in such disbelief that this fight was finally over. I put my head in my hands and I was like, oh man, I did it. This run is now possible. Or so I thought. And after that quick fight that didn't take us any effort at all, it's on to Maliketh. We do some parkouring around, and I do the bird skip because the birds are honestly the worst part in this entire thing. Might be worse than Godskin Noble, I don't know. The birds are horrible, man. I don't have enough damage to kill them or really avoid them in any good way, so we do the bird skip. This skip does take a lot of practice. I would recommend everybody learn this skip if they don't feel like going through the gauntlet. If you are doing any kind of challenge run or low damage run or anything like that where you can't just blast the birds into pieces. Yeah, this one is 100% worth it. And it's faster. We say goodbye to our very last horse, and I'm not going to pet this one. Not a good idea. We're just going to leave him alone. This is one of the moments in the run where I am just extremely fortunate that I've practiced this fight so many times in different runs and different things I was doing, like speed runs. So I do know first phase extremely well. So first phase I don't really have too much trouble with. It's just another one where it's kind of a gauntlet because you do have pretty low damage, and any mistake in this fight can obviously cost you everything. So I do some testing with the broadsword again just to see my baseline, and then I decide to go back and get the Star Fists. Just something a little more reliable. Well, not reliable. They are pretty bad in some regards, but they are obviously one of the best weapons in the game. There's no denying it is one of the GOATs. I didn't want to have to use this weapon. I was really hoping I could get away with using something else, and I probably could have. It's almost the perfect weapon for this boss because you can get a lot of stuns off. There's a lot of big opportunities for a lot of big charged attacks. And since we do have the Axe Talisman and the charged physic, we can be outputting a lot more damage with charge attacks than versus single R1s. Which R1s do add up over time, but the charged R2s is where the Starfist really shine. And of course, we can put Bloodflame Blade on the Starfist as well, giving us a lot more chances of bleed procs, which of course, very nice for any boss. I'm not gonna lie though, this weapon almost made me feel like my run was diminished, like I was cheating. The damage on these charge R2s, while it doesn't look crazy, maybe for you guys on the screen right now, you're like, oh, 300 damage. This guy, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you've been doing 100 damage for a lot of the run, you start to feel like, whoa, man, this thing is almost as good as a leveled weapon. And honestly, I might have to do maybe a no-hit run with these balls because I can't even imagine what they look like leveled right now because I've been doing this low damage for so long. But the big damages add up, the bleed starts adding up, the charge starts adding up, the riposts and riposts, if you will. Everything just starts adding up, and the Starfists just look like they're almost leveled at this point, but they are +0. Not a single upgrade has went into any weapon in this run, I promise you. And as we get into Phase 2, you can clearly see my weakness. I do not know Phase 2 at all. I don't know where his tail is or where his dick is. I have no idea what the hell this crazy hound is doing. In most of the runs I've done, even if you look on my channel, there's a YouTube short about me fighting Maliketh in under 60 seconds, where he just gets absolutely obliterated with a Serpent Hunter. That's all I know. You kill him before he can start to go crazy. So it took me a long time to figure out some kind of exploit I can do in Phase 2, and there's a very clear attack where he jumps on top of his sword and does a flip forward, and then you could just kind of exploit it from there. But this fight probably took me, I want to say 2 or 3 hours. Not bad, because luckily, like I said earlier, I do know Phase 1 extremely well. If I didn't know Phase 1, I think this fight would have taken me like 10 hours. But it didn't feel bad learning this fight because it's a fun fight. It's not Godskin Duo where they're just throwing stuff at you and you have no idea what they're doing. There's no pattern or anything you could do for pattern recognition, because the duo fight is just two random entities put together in a single map that don't really have any synergy together. It's not like one is close distance and one is, you know, far range, and you split one up and the other one gets less aggressive. They're all going to attack you at some point. But yeah, this Maliketh fight really showed I am so weak at Phase 2. And I'm super glad I did this low damage run, because this just made my entire arsenal so much better. Like, I know what to look for, I know what to dodge and how to dodge. And now I know his dick from his tail, and business as usual. I would say besides learning how to fight Noble, which is not that important, this might have been one of the most satisfying fights to learn. Everything flows pretty nice. He's pretty easy to telegraph. You can see what he's doing very clearly, unless he jumps on a wall and the camera gets crazy. It happens. Yeah, this run has been super humbling in thinking I knew how to play Elden Ring into realizing I don't really know that much, and I have put in a lot of hours into this game. It just goes to show you sometimes your build can carry you extremely far, and a lot of the builds and stuff I've played have definitely carried me very far. So if you guys are looking to learn how to play this game better, I know it's not for everybody and you probably won't do it. Try to learn some boss fights if you can on low damage. It is super rewarding and super satisfying to finally understand exactly what the boss is doing and how to counter it. Of course, I'm not perfect in any of these fights, but I feel like after this run I have such a higher knowledge of at least the base game and the few bosses that we ran in no damage. To be fair, it wasn't, you know, DLC bosses, it wasn't Millennia or any of that. Although there might be a run in the future where I might run this +0 thing back and go to all the bosses that we never fought. So that's a big possibility in the future. And finally, with a pretty satisfying run, the Hound is down and it's... I realized my happiness couldn't last forever, and I realized we had to fight Gideon. On high damage, he is a pain in the ass, and just on low damage, this is one of the worst fights, even though it didn't take me that long. This is one of the worst fights in the entire game. There is no thing to learn in this fight. You almost have to get lucky, and this fight's horrible. Anyway, I realized there's a cool weapon that we can get after the capital gets lit on fire, and it turns to ash, and it's the Stormhawk axe from Nephili. I think her name is Nephili, whatever, Nephili Lu from Whoville. Pretty cool weapon. Has its own self-buffing mechanism, which gives you lightning damage. And honestly, I might even want to try to do this weapon as an entire run. It's very cool. After a few deaths of this guy, I decided to go get the Bloody Helus, which is a super long-ranged thrusting weapon that has bleed on it. So we go grab that. And while he doesn't have very much HP at 6,226, doing 120 damage a poke. So that is 51 pokes. And then if he does heal, you know, there's another 25 pokes. So you're sitting at 76, 77 pokes if you don't have any bleed procs. Luckily, we got some bleed procs on our side with this one, but the math do math on this one, and that's a lot of poking. So we finally put it in his bone, and it's on to one of the best fights in the game. I was feeling pretty inspired with the Stormhawk axe on the Gideon fight, so I decided to test it out on Godfrey, Horalu, whatever you want to call him, the first Elden goat. I just wanted to give it a test to see how well it performed, and honestly, it did really good. I just felt like I could do better. This is another one of those fights where I am super happy I put a lot of work into this boss over the years of fighting him with different weapons and different builds. So first phase, again, I know extremely well. I don't really have any problems with this one besides, you know, the occasional screw up where you're just trying to outlive. You're doing such little damage that you're not normally fighting him for this long. I got stuck on a pillar there, but there's not a lot that can go wrong in first phase, to be honest. Second phase is, again, where all my weaknesses get exposed. And phase 2 is just brutal. But yeah, I'd go back to the broadsword and test it out for a bit, just to see how it performs versus the Stormhawk axe. Again, I'm just curious. It's not a weapon that I'm necessarily gonna want to use for this fight. Again, the damage is pretty low, and I feel like we can just do better. Has almost the same performance, fully buffed up as the Stormhawk axe. I somehow didn't jump there, but whatever. Phase 2, once again, crippling. We try the balls, give it a shot. Doing this fight, I just felt the balls were just too good. Like, it was too easy to do it, and I was gonna finish this fight really quick. They're just so good. I don't know. You could do quick R1s to make bleed damage happen. You could do charged R2s to make big damage and stuns happen. The ball's got it all, man. Truly a generational weapon. Yeah, we get him down to phase 2, and I kind of just give up. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I just don't want to use it. I don't want to complete this run with this weapon, because we're going to use it again. Spoiler alert for the last fight. It's just, it makes the most sense for that fight. So I decided to like really learn the fight and really lock it down, and I used a torch just for some extra really low damage. We can't use any riposte with the torch. We can't do anything special with it, so it's just a a very fair fight. And honestly, it was kind of fun. I don't know if I'm going to do a torch-only run, though, because Godskin Duo exists and Gideon. But it could happen one day. I don't know. Yeah, very, very fun and satisfying to use. It actually stuns very well. A very surprising weapon that I just busted out of nowhere. I just wanted to see. I was like, what weapon do I have that's the least capable? And that was the one. So, I finally decide to use something similar to the fists. And it's the hooked claws. And these things are awesome, man. Never really used them past my first, like, casual playthrough. And I stacked them with Bloodflame Blade, mostly doing charged or just R1 attacks to try to build bleed procs, and then charged R2s when I can for the stuns. And I'm very satisfied with how this fight goes with the charge claws. So I decide that the charge claws are going to be the weapon I'm going to use. Very fun to do in first phase, and then phase 2 is again where all my troubles and weaknesses come out to play. At first, I had the same mindset as the Maliketh fight, where I was really looking for one attack that could really bring me home and exploit, but I couldn't find it with this boss. He has way too many different attacks, so I decided the best strategy for me was to stick close to him and try to just react to what he's doing. And eventually, I build up a pattern recognition system, and we kind of go to work. It's still a very sketchy fight, and I still struggled with it, and I feel like I need to learn phase 2. It's just getting to phase 2 on no damage is such a grueling task. Like, I think it's maybe a 9-minute fight just to get to phase 2. So as a person who doesn't own a lot of time, I really had to try to make it work for me. And I would have really loved to learn this fight a lot better and lock it down. But like I said, I didn't have really the time to do it. Or else I would have just, I don't know, somehow grinded phase 2. I don't know if that's even possible to do, but I guess we'll figure it out one day where I could just grind phase 2. Or I guess I could have just used a leveled weapon and got him to phase 2 in 3 seconds. And maybe that's a thing we could do next time. Because I really would like to learn all the ins and outs of phase 2. I am pretty much almost always near death in phase 2. I just can't escape. He's always cracking me with something of a, a 2-hit combo here. A quick little attack there that I wasn't ready for. But I felt as soon as I started switching to just fighting up close range, the fight got a little more bearable. Before I was kind of running away from him, and then he would do the long wind-up attacks. And the timing on it is so awkward to dodge. Like a lot of bosses in Elden Ring, they have those long wind-up attacks, and you're like, is he going to do it now? How about now? How about now? Wait about now. And then he just cracks you with it, and you're like, man. It's almost like you have to do a quarterback count. But it always seems like, your offensive players jump at the line of scrimmage, and then you get the penalty, which is the defense destroying your body. Sorry about the sports talk. I know probably people don't like sports. It just happens sometimes. And another fight where I'm almost in disbelief that I finally won. Even though this boss fight probably only took me a couple hours. It wasn't too bad. I'd say maybe 3 hours. And again, I had a lot of fun doing it. I switched weapons and tried a whole bunch of stuff. But on to the very last fight is Radagon and the Elden Beast. I will say I thought I had the Radagon fight on lock as well. I mean, I still kind of do. But again, the fight doesn't go that long. So you're seeing a lot of different attacks that I've probably never really seen before besides my first playthrough. A lot of big explosion attacks and things I've never had to deal with. So that was actually kind of fun to learn as well. Again, I go for the Star Fist for the very last fight. It's just the most capable weapon I can think of dealing with Elden Beast. Any weapon kind of messes up Radagon. He's pretty weak. He doesn't have a lot of HP, so you can't get him down pretty quick. But Elden Beast has a monstrosity amount of HP. It's very close to the Godskin Duo, weighing in at around 22,127 health. So having a weapon that's capable of doing, you know, 200 damage is a very big help when you have a boss that has 22,000 HP. And of course, learning Radagon, again, doesn't come with its faults. There are, like I said before, a few attacks that I probably haven't seen in a very long time. And there's a few timings I don't have on lock, you know, I kind of slip up a little bit. But honestly, he wasn't that bad to learn. I think it might have taken 20 minutes to get through Radagon at a reasonable pace where I can just basically one-shot him every time. Like, it didn't take very long to get through that fight. I think this is the very first time I've ever been hit by this attack. I felt so bad just getting grabbed. I thought I was going to live, and I was like, oh, I'm going to live? Nah, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead. And like I was saying earlier in the video, this run has helped me tremendously in Elden Ring. There were so many times I just wanted to quit, mainly on the Godskin Duo fight. I was like, this is impossible. I can never do this. This is not happening. What am I even doing with my time? Why am I playing this game like this again? I might as well just do some crazy overpowered runs and have fun. But with persistence and enough willpower and stubbornness, I was finally able to really get in a solid groove on the final stretch of this game, where the middle of it with Fire Giant and Godskin Duo just felt honestly hopeless at some points. I don't remember the time on the Fire Giant fight, but it did take me a long time to get him down. I was just so stubborn with the broadsword. When I finally switched, it was obviously easy, but yeah, this run just made me want to quit and not play Elden Ring. I was like, what am I doing, man? I'm really glad I stuck with it and got this far to the end. Will I do another low damage run? It really depends on the setup and maybe the theme of the low damage run. Could be an RL level 1, but I know that run is pretty busted too. And it's finally on to the Elden Beast. We do have a pretty good strat with him at the start, where we can get some stuns off and just crack him down and do as much damage as we physically can with, you know, the limitations that are set on my character, i.e. no weapon upgrades. And the worst thing with Elden Beast is honestly just the RNG you gotta deal with this guy. But the camera goes crazy. Like, where am I going? What can I do here? There's nothing I can do. I'm dead. But once you got hit by the one flame, it's over for you, man. That attack, I don't think I've ever seen in my life, where he slams down. I fall for it almost every single time. This one, again, I don't think I've ever seen it. With all the damage we do in other runs, we don't really see too much past the very first Elden Ring he does. Okay, he beats the crap out of me for a while. And eventually, you know, the fish does give us some pretty good RNG, which happened in, I think, one of my other runs too, the no heal run, where I was just getting beat up and then finally got a good pattern. I'm not sure the odds of him giving this pattern, but there is a pattern where I think if you do enough damage, he will skip the first Elden Ring that he does, and he'll just do this like swim in sword attack, which is really nice. Very easy to dodge. You do get a lot of opportunities for a lot of damage, and then he just keeps doing it. Great. We'll take that every single time. Dealing with Elden Stars and the giant spikes that come from the heavens, this fight can be really, really messy. Luckily, we had a really good Radagon phase before this too, where I didn't have to heal, and we hitless them, which was really, really nice. Again, I wish I could show more footage of this run, because I did have a lot of cool moments, but I'd rather show progression and try to keep the video relatively shorter. Like, this one's already going on an hour long. That was a nice catch right there. Good awareness on my part. But yeah, this video was super long already, and I've showed I've showed so much, but showed so little out of this, 30 or 40 hour run, whatever it ended up being. I don't remember. I was just very glad to get it over with. Yeah, we deal with a little more RNG. Got to deal with the Elden Stars. I got to find a good way to deal with this attack too. This thing seems so random. Like, I feel like I had a good distance there, and it just zoomed in and caught up on me. No idea how to get rid of that. Like, super annoying. If I had to do hit lists for this, I'd definitely have to do high damage, because I'm not dealing with that attack ever. Almost blow it right here. The first hit, did almost half HP, and another one would have clapped me if I didn't dodge it. So I saw this attack earlier, wised up on it, realized we just got to run away, and then we can do a buttload of damage. And then he goes into the sword again. Fantastic RNG. Couldn't be happier with how this fight's going at this point. I just got to not screw this up, because I don't think I'd get another RNG set like this ever again. Camera goes a little crazy, but whatever. Yeah, we get a nice stun off. We get a nice follow-up again, and deal with a little more crazy RNG until he goes back into the sword swipes. You love to see it. I messed up real bad there because I rebuffed, I think, and I only had one hand. But yeah, this attack is free. You just get the tee off on him. And then almost get caught on a little looky look there. Super scary. Luckily got a nice stun off him. This is pretty much GG. I'm running really low on stamina, so I'm trying to conserve my my charge attacks, so I can actually get the riposte on him. Yeah, again, we get really lucky. He goes into another triple sword attack, and that allows me to finish off the fight. Yeah, if you guys got this far into this video, thank you guys so much for watching. Having a lot of fun doing challenge runs and stuff again. Look out for some more. If you got any suggestions of some cool runs, don't look at the feet, you sick perverts. I saw you guys look at the feet. I caught you. Yeah, that's right, I caught you. But yeah, if you have any suggestions on some challenge runs, please drop it in the comments, and I will put it on a list and we'll see what we can do. Thank you for watching, everybody.